Oh, it is open. What is it?
It's short.
Yeah, what's in there? Freaky. Oh, let me put my All right, we're standing in front of the old cemetery. Unmarked graves. There's 10,000 unmarked graves behind me. You would never know it. I'm sure people who have lived here for many, many years will not even know that in these woods, these overgrown pines, is unmarked graves from the Tewksbury State Insane Asylum, dated back to the 1850s. Let's go check it out. The Pine Cemetery, as it's called, is one of several in Tewksbury that are part of the Tewksbury State Hospital legacy. The hospital had patients with tuberculosis, polio, and they cared for the pauper, and they opened in 1852. There are over 10,000 bodies buried in the pines, a mere 2-acre site, with markers lined in rows that are numbered and lettered, row after row after row, as far as the eyes can see. The cemetery operated from 1854 to 1930, though records for the first 30 years have yet to be located. You wonder, 10,000 unmarked graves, or just marked with numbers. What happened to these children, to these babies, to the men and the women? No records, no family to advocate for them, just unmarked graves.
What were you doing, by the way?
I was telling you. So my Little League field is that way, and my house is that way. So I figured instead of walking all the way down the street and up there, I just cut through the woods.
So you're going this way.
I went that way, right where we are.
And then what happened?
So you would be going like...
Well, so I live that direction, so I walk down that street, and then I'm like, I'm not gonna walk all the way to that street, and then walk all the way down that street. You know, when you're a kid, you're just like, I'll just cut through. And you know, it was just woods. So, and it was daylight, but it was, you know, like after school, it was like, you know, a little darker.
Why did you do
But probably like this time of day, you know.
Why did
And that
you
was-
do it?
I was going to baseball. I had a baseball game.
Was it
The baseball field is right down there, Finn, on that street. If you keep going there about a half mile.
And then what happened?
crazy? Everywhere you look.
And then
No.
I tripped over one of these graves. And then I remember looking, going, why are these all in a line like this? So I immediately just thought it was like a pet cemetery, to be honest with you. And then I started like looking into it. I'm like, something's not right. Something.
And how old are you?
I must have been 12
Or all by yourself?
by myself. And of course I had to tell somebody, so it's like, I was like looking for Sean Dara to tell. Yeah, look at these. Isn't that incredible? Look at the line of them.
Look at them. Everywhere you look.
Yeah, well, right here. This is the kind of thing I put there. See that?
The Tewksbury Insane Asylum was authorized by an act of the Massachusetts General Court in 1852 and opened in May of 1854. They accepted what was then known as the pauper insane, which was described as a person without any means of support, especially a destitute person who depends on aid from public welfare, funds, or charity. They were often immigrants and poor people who had no family, no friends, and therefore no one to advocate for them. The insane asylum was seen as a solution to the problem of the insane, and Tewksbury was the state's first facility to accept the chronically insane. But the buildings were soon overwhelmed, as within 3 weeks of opening, Tewksbury had a population of well over the capacity of 500, and by the end of the year, over 2,000 people had been admitted to the complex. Obviously, overcrowding was an issue, especially when it came time to caring for the sick. Interesting, one of the main buildings was renamed after Anne Sullivan, who is best known as the teacher and companion of Helen Keller. Anne Sullivan contracted a bacterial eye disease known as trachoma, which caused many painful infections and, over time, made her nearly blind. When she was 8, her mother died from tuberculosis and her father abandoned the children. She and her younger brother James were sent to the run-down and overcrowded Tewksbury Almshouse, and as a result, she endured multiple unsuccessful eye operations and poor, cramped conditions. The asylum buildings held cramped dormitories with men, women, and children suffering from various ailments and mental conditions. Although these buildings were made magnificently by popular architects of the time, they do now hold some creepy, sinister, and quite literally gruesome history that would give the modern person chills. Yes, Tewksbury became the first in the state to take in the chronically insane, as they called them. But what was classified as the chronically insane during those times? Perhaps those that were considered insane actually weren't. Things such as anxiety, seizure disorder, head injury, what we know today as PMS, depression, and all of these would lead those in charge to agree that all of these considered insane would also need to be part of the eugenics. Yes, eugenics in the USA, but that's for another video. The history details the rise and decline of poorhouses in Massachusetts, painting a portrait of life inside these institutions and revealing a history of political and social turmoil over issues that still dominate the conversation about the poor and mental health today. But what happened to all these people, and how did 10,000 undocumented bodies end up in a cemetery? What do you think happened to them? Underground tunnel systems, connected buildings. And we happened to come across one as we were walking the property. Take a look, if you dare.
Don't go too far.
It just keeps it just keeps going.
Okay. Come back.
Hold on.
Seriously. We can't see you anymore. Dad!
Shh, shh, shh.
Stop!
Shh, 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 shh.
Oh my god, it's freaking. Oh my goodness. Will you stop that music?
Shh, shh, shh.
Get out.
Tewksbury Insane Asylum is still in existence today, but it's known as the Tewksbury State Hospital. It's also home to the Public Health Museum and has some very interesting original items, like an original iron lung, an original mail system. They may not tell you the full story of what went on in these grounds. That's for you to do your own exploring.